I know what you're probably thinking. Here's another nerd crying out into the void about how the MCU and Captain America died with Endgame, but maybe that's not the full story. Because I'll tell you what is the full story. The trailers for Captain America Brave New World, they pretty much gave away the whole movie. Look, I understand, right? Trailers, they're meant to preview the best parts of the movie, but normally with a trailer, right, you see these little snippets and you go, okay, this is giving me a little taste of the movie, but I've got more to look forward to. There's going to be some more meat to this film, something that I have to go and actually watch the movie to see. But I'll tell you guys, the trailers give you everything you need to know about this movie. I would say there's about 2.5 sort of good action sequences in this film, and that's about it. So yeah guys, full spoilers ahead, you have been warned. In this video, I'm going to be covering the villains, the weird MCU callbacks, the stakes of the film, how Harrison Ford goes as Thaddeus Ross and the Red Hulk, and of course the big question that maybe some people are wondering, how does Anthony Mackie, aka Sam Wilson, go as the new cinematic Captain America? After meeting with newly elected US President, no, not that one that you're thinking of, this is about Thaddeus Ross, Sam finds himself in the middle of an international incident. He must discover the reason behind a nefarious global plot before the true mastermind has the entire world seeing red. The funniest and kind of weirdest thing to me about Brave New World is how up to date on the lore of The Incredible Hulk 2008 that you need to be to truly kind of appreciate and understand this film. I never ever would have thought that a 2025 MCU film would be so enthusiastically calling back to a D grade, probably one of the worst MCU films of all time, one that's also had multiple casting changes since. It was so weird. I mean, I guess maybe I should have been expecting it because the main villain is Thaddeus Ross, but I kind of hadn't put the dots together that it's actually the same guy because it's been recast, obviously, with Harrison Ford in the main role now. I feel like the big dogs at Marvel were sitting back in their chairs, acting all smug, going, oh yeah, the fans, they're really gonna love these little Easter eggs, these callbacks that we've thrown in here. They think that we're gonna react like,
it's that forgettable character from that D-grade MCU movie that came out 17 years ago that's had multiple casting changes since. What?
The main villain is Samuel Stearns, guys. Can you honestly tell me you remember who this guy is? This is like 30 movies ago in the MCU, in a movie that everyone agrees is probably one of the worst recent Marvel films. I had no idea who this bloke is, and he is the main villain of this film. He's kind of built up as this big reveal, and I'm just seeing him on screen. I'm like, okay, like, is there going to be another kind of big villain in this movie? And that's the big problem with this film. There's just no clear villain or antagonist to really anchor everything together. The main stakes of this film largely revolves around politics and the threat of global war, I think. So yeah, it sort of treads into Phantom Menace style politics, but instead of intergalactic trade agreements, we have this treaty between America, Japan, and India about who gets to access the adamantium that's been found in the celestial structure that was left behind from the Eternals movie. Yep, you heard me right, the Eternals, guys, and that is a movie that, hot take, I actually quite liked, but it's been a gaping hole inside the MCU that events from that film were pretty much completely ignored, so I was so pumped to see finally some callbacks to events in that film. But by the end of this movie, man, I was just sick of the references. It just felt so obvious that the film was lacking a bit of connection to the MCU, so the writers were like, oh, how are we gonna make the fans excited? Oh yeah, what's a buzzword? Oh yeah, adamantium, people like that, because Wolverine's claws are made of adamantium, right? Let's make that a part of this movie. Let's just name drop it and everyone will get excited. And it doesn't really work, because also at the same time, it's not clear what any of the countries are going to use this adamantium for. We just understand that it's somehow a really precious resource that everyone wants a little piece of. And then also at the same time, most of the movie you're like, Oh no, not the treaty between these countries. Like, this is gonna be really bad if the treaty breaks down. It's not even really emphasized that this is gonna lead to a big global war. Like, it all does sort of come to a head in probably one of the best scenes of the movie when they're all trying to have. It's sort of like a Cuban Missile style kind of crisis, like in X-Men First Class. It felt very derivative from that movie. That was probably one of the best parts of the film, but that's the only time where the stakes sort of feel real, because the rest of the time it's just Harrison Ford going, "We can't mess up the treaty. Oh no, not the treaty. Oh, I can't make my daughter Becky sad." And you're like, come on, bro. Why do I care about this? Why do I care about any of this that's happening? They have Giancarlo Esposito in there as like sort of a villain as well, but again, he's just sort of acting as a pawn for Stearns in a way, but he just never really comes across as that threatening. There's one scene where I did get a bit of a jump scare where he starts shooting at Sam, and that was good. I kind of wish the movie leaned into a bit more of that. Like, the sound design was like, whoa, okay, like, that gave me a bit of a fright. But yeah, apart from that, he sort of just faded into the background. And then you've also got this character called Sabra, who's like the security advisor for Thaddeus Ross, and she's sort of a villain at the start, but then she ends up teaming up very easily with Sam Wilson and the gang. She's like an Israeli superhero now. You could write a whole essay on this, but obviously with events going on in the world, it does kind of feel a little bit problematic to me. And then it kind of makes you step back and question the whole thing. America's a country that has a history of just bullying everyone else, eventually getting things that they want through messy, bloody violence. And like, I do actually like the core message of this film seems to be about, no, we need to proceed forward through unity, through togetherness, and I can really understand the core message of what America is meant to be is about creating a brave new world, a world of freedom, of opportunity, of equal rights. You know, when I went and visited the Statue of Liberty myself, I could really see like why everyone gets so patriotic about America, because the core ideals of the country is meant to be about like this utopian society. But in reality, they've just become this giant bully. And maybe it's unfair to sort of criticize the actress, because who knows what her opinions are on everything that's going on there, because not every single Israeli person is supportive of what their government is doing, and maybe it's unfair to make that generalization. Did not expect to sort of be covering those politics in this video. Maybe that was a really stupid idea to try and talk to that. Continuing along with the villains, you've got Thaddeus Ross. He's a military general who's been in a few MCU films and now recast with Harrison Ford. Basically, he's been getting slowly poisoned by Stearns to eventually turn into the Red Hulk. But man, Harrison Ford, like, I don't know why he's doing this to himself. Like, it was kind of painful watching, because he has just been in films that are so much better than what we have here. And I guess, yes, I understand he's doing it for the paycheck, but man, do you really need to be a part of something like this? Like, he is just so far above sort of these kind of movies. So it was sort of funny as well, because every time, especially at the start of the movie he came on screen, I was kind of imagining him as Trump, because they're both newly elected presidents, they're both divisive figures. Well, by the middle of the film, you could tell it's pretty coincidental. They're not really trying to draw any parallels, I don't think, the filmmakers, but it was kind of funny imagining or viewing the film through that lens of Thaddeus Ross being Trump if this was set in the real world. But yeah, long story short, you have to wait through pretty much most of this movie's runtime for finally Thaddeus to turn into the Red Hulk. And then when he does, the fight, it's not even that good. You don't even get that iconic image that the whole marketing campaign has been based around, with the red fist smashing into the shield. You know, I was hoping for like a Civil War, Iron Man versus Captain America kind of epic comic book moment. But instead, the fight is just over way too quickly. It also doesn't make sense, because really, the Red Hulk should be absolutely destroyed destroying Sam Wilson because he has not taken the super soldier serum. He's getting bashed around, and of course it ends in the most predictable way. Oh wow, Thaddeus gets talked down by Sam because he mentions his daughter. Wow, who saw that coming? The transformation into the Red Hulk isn't even that satisfying either. They build up to it earlier in the film in a pretty epic way, but it doesn't happen then. And then it kind of happens a little bit later, and it just really doesn't feel like it happens for a reason. It just feels like it happens because the writers went, okay, we're up to this point in the plot where Thaddeus needs to turn into the Red Hulk. Let's just make him do it now. And yeah, it just really doesn't feel that epic or earned when it actually happens. And yeah, the whole thing just fell pretty flat for me. Some of the green screen in those scenes, it just looks so terrible, man. And like, you know, I'd spent this whole movie's runtime, the whole movie's marketing campaign going, oh boy, I can't wait to see the Red Hulk, man. This is gonna be good. And then it's over just like that. Like, come on, man. It's so disappointing. So finally, on to the big question that you're all probably wondering. Does Anthony Mackie, aka Sam Wilson, cut it as the new Captain America? And what I'll say is, he's just exactly the same as he is in that series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So make of that what you will. Like, I've never thought that he's a bad character. I don't mind him as Captain America, but I've got to say, I know it's cliche, he's never, ever, ever going to be Chris Evans. I'm sorry, but nobody can be Chris Evans. And the whole basis of the Captain America character, at least for me, the reason why I find him interesting is because it's like, he's a guy that's grown up, you know, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. He's now been thrust into the modern world with superpowers. That kind of contrast, seeing him deal with that, that's what made the character interesting. Not so much the whole American patriotism thing. What made it interesting was him sort of being a relic of the past and him trying to bring those ideals to the future or to the present. Unfortunately, Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson, he just doesn't have that interest, and so the character just comes off as feeling pretty flat. And don't even get me started on his sidekick as well. Man, that guy is so annoying. And this movie implies that he's going to be in the Avengers. And I'm going, please, no, just kill off the character, man. They try and anchor the film about his friendship with Sam. And it's just so cringe, man. So please don't have him in the Avengers. And yeah, in the end, you don't even need to have watched The Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show, the very mediocre TV show. That's 330 minutes of my life that I won't get back. And this movie, it just feels like an extended episode of that TV show. And unfortunately, I don't mean that in a good way. It's just sad because, like everyone else, I used to love Marvel, but it just seems like they're completely running out of chances now. The whole thing just feels like it completely lacks momentum, it lacks continuity between the films, and I know I've been saying this after like the last 10 Marvel movies, but my patience is running out, I'm getting sick of it. And you know, if the TV shows don't even really matter for the movies, why would I waste my time watching them when they're not even good? So, with all that in mind, I'm gonna give Captain America Brave New World 2 stars out of 5. They're trying to go with the whole Winter Soldier political conspiracy angle, but unfortunately, all the plot lines just come across as really jumbled, boring. They just don't have the same kind of punch. There's just no reason to really care about the stakes. It's like overcomplicated, and it just feels really stale. Is the MCU finally dead? Will the Fantastic Four come back and tie everything together and get us all hype again and save it? I'm not so sure that it will, but guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.